Well, there's obviously been plenty of lively discussion this week over the cut-price milk war that broke out over summer. A decade after deregulation, and many fear that the drastic discounting by Coles and Woolworths could result in another shakeout of struggling fresh milk producers. And as Kerry State reports, nowhere is that anxiety more keenly felt than among dairy farmers in North Queensland's Atherton tablelands.
Tropical Queensland may not sound like ideal dairying country, but on closer inspection it's clear the Atherton tablelands has some distinct advantages.
It's perfect, perfect. We've got a subtropical climate in the tropics because we're 750, 800 metres above sea level, so really that puts us into a subtropical paradise, which is ideal for dairy farm.
We've pretty well got water laid on. You know, we can grow grass, and we do that pretty well.
The undulating lush land around Malanda, southwest of Cairns, has been the home of North Queensland's dairy industry for around a century. And there's a lot of pride in the local drop.
This region up here on the Atherton tablelands is the only tropical dairy area in Australia and probably the most successful tropical dairy area in the world.
It means everything. It's our life, it's our livelihood, it's our future, it's where our son and our grandkids hope to be in the future.
Ray and Donna Graham run one of the biggest dairy operations in the region, employing 10 people and milking between 750 and 800 cows.
Good girl. It's not an easy life. You get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes you don't go to bed till, I don't know, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So we're here because we want to be here. And the people as a whole are positive. They keep overcoming.
The big hurdle in the last decade has been the deregulation of the industry in 2000. The Grahams grappled with it by expanding.
We hadn't until recently stopped. You know, we'd bought another block of land, bought a couple more herds, leased another farm.
So you saw a big future in this industry here?
Yes. For our family, yeah.
It's clear that wasn't the case for many of their neighbours.
We came here in December 81. There was 268 farmers here then. 1st of July 2000, the day of deregulation, we had 185, and today we're down to 60.
And now even those still in the game fear their dairies will house more cobwebs than cows in the future as market forces turn milk into an increasingly marginal business.
The price of milk now is substantially less than it was 10 years ago. I've got a daughter driving trucks in a mine that makes more than my wife and I. She works 2 weeks on, 1 week off. We're here 7 days a week. She nets more than we do together.
We've moved into an era now where there's a massive uncertainty with supermarket contracts, with the amount of milk that our processor requires from farmers. So, yes, people have turned the lights down, really, on an industry that is probably world-class.
Most of the milk produced on the tablelands goes through this factory at Malanda. Originally in the hands of farmers, it's now part of one of the biggest players in processing, Lion Nathan National Foods, which is owned by Japanese brewing giant Kirin. The plant churns through about 70 million litres a year. The company's priority is to produce fresh drinking milk for the domestic market, which is what Queensland's dairy industry revolves around. Anything it can't sell in fluid form is made into cheese or butter. Farmers get higher Tier 1 prices for the milk that ends up in bottles and lower Tier 2 prices for what's turned into blocks. The problem for producers is the company has reduced the amount of Tier 1 milk it wants.
At the moment, we have oversupply in Queensland, New South Wales and Western Australia. There needs to be some more structural alignment There was a tremendous amount of structural alignment come out of deregulation back in 2000. I think we're in a situation where we need to continue that structural alignment.
At the moment, National Foods is trying to negotiate a deal for even less of the top drop in North Queensland after losing a supermarket contract to the other big milk processor in Australia, the Italian dairy giant Parmalat.
We started to work out how vulnerable we were. We could have these large volumes of milk either come our way or be taken away from us.
Because that was 11 million litres, wasn't it?
It was 11 million litres in North Queensland that the southern processor got that's now being trucked into this area.
I think some of the scary part about that is that we're sort of getting a signal that, oh, well, we want you to turn the milk on and turn the milk off. Now, to survive under the conditions that they're asking us to, some farms, including us, may have to sell asset. If we sell land, it'll be sold as lifestyle blocks, and we'll never get that back. We won't dairy off that ever again.
North Queensland's production costs are among the highest in the country, partly because the grass doesn't convert into milk as efficiently as temperate pastures. Still, when demand peaked a few years ago, there was plenty of cream in the industry. One industry report, based on government figures, found dairies made an average of around 7 cents a litre before tax. Last year, that slumped to less than 1 cent. And this year, it's forecasting a loss of nearly 4 cents a litre.
My return on this investment is in the minus side at the present. If I was to just be on farm and not have the ability to work off farm, I would be slowly going bankrupt.
Alan Baldy had big plans when he entered the industry 5 years ago. The former owner of an engineering business set up Queensland's first robotic dairy.
There had to be a better way and a better quality of life than getting up at 4 every morning, milking and then doing the same thing at night and then going to bed 7 days a week.
The idea is to keep the cows peckish so they return to the dairy for a feed. But the terrain, size of the paddocks, even the tropical grass varieties have created some teething problems for this high-tech approach.
Robotic dairies were probably more suited to flat country pasture where you can control the rate at which the cows access their pastures.
He expected to double production and pay off his investment in 7 years. Instead, he's now $1.5 million in debt and is seriously considering leaving the industry. While he accepts some of the blame, Mr. Baldy says the big players further along the supply chain also have a lot to answer for.
I place the blame 2 places, the supermarkets and the processor. The supermarkets will say to the processor, this is all we're going to pay for milk. The processor wants to make a profit margin, so the only person he's going to screw is the producer himself. And at the end of the day, if they don't get their return, they will close this dairy.
National Foods says it's committed to the region, pointing to a recent $6.5 million investment in the factory, but admits it's not making much money from North Queensland's milk.
So the returns on white milk we've been making haven't really covered our cost of capital. Does it make more than zero money? Yes, it makes more. But does it cover a cost of capital? No, it doesn't at this stage.
So you're not making any profits from this factory?
We need to work on improving the profits out of this area. The more volume we can put through here, the more viable the plant is.
If you grow the market in North Queensland by 10%, I have 10% more milk on the top tier. If the market contracts, I have more milk on the second tier. So, yeah, my life is in their hands, and I won't make any bones about it.
One dairy farmer who has taken his life into his own hands is Rob Watson. Like most local producers, he used to send his milk to the big factory in Malanda. But when the industry was deregulated, he and his brother decided to do the value-adding themselves and set up the only other milk processing plant on the tablelands.
Oh, it's been very challenging all the way through, so sometimes I'd like to be like them and just have to produce milk, but in other ways it does give you the freedom to be able to... You control your own destiny, so therefore you're not relying on a big processor to say how much they're going to give you.
The boutique dairy business Mungali Creek first made a name for itself as a biodynamic milk producer. It recently launched another niche line, Jersey cow milk.
Well, when we first started, we were doing about 1,000 litres a week, and now it's probably 60 or 70,000 litres a week, so it's changed quite dramatically, yeah.
As well as bottling their own drop, they've now become price makers instead of price takers. They source milk from several local farmers and plan to increase their pool of producers if demand continues to grow.
Well, we thought with the global financial crisis that because our milk is so expensive relative to the home brand stuff, that we'd lose market share, and that hasn't happened. The people that are loyal to Mungali Creek Dairy have kept on buying our product, and our sales haven't dropped at all.
But clearly Coles is betting on its customers pleasing themselves. In January, the supermarket giant slashed the price of its home brand milk to $1 a litre, more than 80 cents cheaper than the average price of branded milk. Woolworths says it had no choice but to follow, at a time when many of its customers are struggling with the spiralling cost of living.
We've seen an increase in homegrown milk sales of roughly between 5 and 6%, and we've seen a moderate decrease in our branded milk sales, but very minimal at this point in time, about 1 to 2%.
Landline understands that gap is widening, but neither Woolworths nor Coles would disclose precise figures. But even before the price war, more and more no-frills milk was finding its way into more fridges, accounting for at least half of supermarket milk sales. So much so that it's become an important part of business for large processors like National Foods. But the real cream for the middlemen remains the more expensive branded lines. And with those losing ground, the company says its profit margins on white milk for the domestic market are now less than 2%.
It's very difficult for us while our house brand is selling at such a cheap rate. Somehow we need to look at being able to share the margins that are in the price of milk more equitably across all of us.
They're taking $407 million a year out of the market by selling generic milk products versus branded. The price of milk is too low compared for the cost and the amount of time involved in it. And there just needs to be a balance in here, Kerry. That's the point. Put some balance back in the game.
Coles says the price it's paying processors should offset any shift from branded to budget.
We're funding the price cuts ourselves. We also gave the milk processors who we deal with a large pay rise in January, so we don't believe there's any reason down the track for these price cuts to have a negative effect on dairy farmers.
Woolworths has also promised not to pass the price cuts on to processors, but concedes the discounting could still damage the industry.
I think the concerns may be less milk production in Australia over the longer term. We don't want to see that. We think that a reduction in shelf prices may also mean that processors will no longer invest in the category as well, and we certainly don't want to see that. So we do share those concerns. We don't see a short-term grab as